You're right. We did it in 1935, but Germany did it in 1889. And it was Chancellor Otto von Bismarck's idea to introduce a social insurance program, he called it, for his constituents. The U.S. followed suit in 1935 with Roosevelt's Social Security Act. They both used an age of 65 as their official retirement age. And in 1935, get a load of this, life expectancy for white Americans was in the 63-year-old range. And it was in the 50s for the black Americans. In essence, it was basically a government perk that they knew they really wouldn't have to pay out on, let alone break the bank. Now, a headline-grabbing false promise of sorts is really what it was. And while it was initially an insurance program to supplement one's own retirement savings, it's morphed into the main retirement that most people rely on nowadays. So now people are living longer thanks to better medicine and lifestyles and putting that social promise to a big test. Reports say that in 2035, it's going to be bankrupt. And in an effort to scare people, it gets bandied about during these debt ceiling talks as a program that needs tailoring. So my next guest talks about this ticking time bomb all the time. Please welcome to the show, Rebecca Walser. Rebecca, thanks. I've known about Otto von Bismarck's idea. Have we sunk the Bismarck on this?
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that analogy. You know, Scott, the thing is it's exactly what you said. If you go back to 1935, I took a private tour of Disney World in Orlando. I live in Tampa, so this is not a big thing for me. And there's actually a little town, a little village in Disney World that has like a yellow brick road running from it. And I made a joke about follow the yellow brick road. And I had a tour guide who explained what that actually is. In other words, we didn't even have sanitation that was really industrialized in the 1930s. So life expectancy was very young. In fact, when they passed Social Security, they knew that men would pay in and women would pay in their entire working life, and they never expected men to be alive to get a benefit. They expected men to pass before 65, before the benefits would kick in. They expected women to get it, but only for a maximum of 5 years, if that, because again, the mortality was in the 60s, not the 70s. So 65 to 70 would be 5 years. So we never expected the system. The math was never done or approved or signed by Congress on paying people for 2 decades. Now we start at age 67. That's the full, what we call FRA, full retirement age. Right. And you're going to live at least, probably, most likely 20 years on this system. We are less than 3 people paying in for every 1 person getting an active benefit. That is completely mathematically unsustainable. If you talk about an average benefit of $1,800 and divide that by 3 American workers, that's $600 in Social Security taxes they would have to pay in every monthly check just to cover someone's basic benefit. And we just can't run a system like that. So this is the problem. The math doesn't work, hasn't worked, but we've been able to keep it going because we have not yet had the first full generation born under it, which is the baby boomers, completely retire onto it, which is happening now in earnest. Pretty much, Scott, we've got 99% of the boomers retired by 2028. That gives us 5 years to get this fixed. Otherwise, we are up a creek without a paddle.
Okay, so I think this is what's going to happen, and tell me what you think about this. But I think, I hear about it all the time. 2035, it's not going to be there. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. I reckon by the time we get there, that there's going to be, there won't be anything for me. So I've already written it off. I'm not going to get a thing. They're just going to say, we're sorry, it was a tax the whole time. We lied, and away they go. Because there's no way, it's going to be very difficult for them to find the money to do it. And I think that by then, who's willing, what politician is willing to go there and try to say that they're going to cut those benefits? It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and everybody says that, Scott, but at some point, your politicians actually have to run based on governing and math and not based on what's going to happen in the next election cycle. I mean, the bottom line is this, the economists that come out and say that the trust fund will last to 2035, they're being disingenuous, Scott, because they know that there is no actual money in the trust fund. There's supposed to be $3 trillion we've collected. We've spent it all. We have special treasury notes, STNs. Read my article I wrote for Fox Business in 2018. It explains that the money has been already spent, and that what we have are STNs, which are essentially federal government IOUs in the trust fund that says when the tax revenue does no longer sustain the monthly benefits being paid out, the government guarantees the difference. So basically, it's coming from the federal government, which means it's coming from us, the taxpayer.
And like my producer just said in my ear, 2018, when you wrote that article, that's 5 years ago now, and they have done nothing since then to make this thing any better. And now we only have, another 12 years left at best, or whenever, like you said, they're being disingenuous. So what do you have 60 seconds. What do you think would be the best way to solve the problem?
We have to go to means testing. It is absolutely required. We must means test. The people that don't need it shouldn't get it, unfortunately. And the people that need it, it needs to be a social safety net, as it was always intended by FDR to be a social safety net. It was never intended to be a main retirement. Unfortunately, it's morphed into that, and it's in no way financially strong enough or secure enough to really be Americans' retirement.
You're right. I mean, both Bismarck and Roosevelt had the idea that it was going to supplement your own, savings that you had. And now, again, like I said in the monologue, nobody does it on their own anymore. They rely on the government. And the problem is that when we try to reform it and take it away from the government, people get worried and say that people are going to screw up anyway. So it's going to be the government problem no matter what you do. But, it's going to be something that they're going to have to watch this space, because I think those are great ideas. Really appreciate you coming on, Rebecca. Thank you very much for bringing it up. It's a great